everyone, welcome into Attacking Third alongside Darian Jenkins and Aaron West. I'm Lisa Carlin. Today we are running through the latest news in the world of women's football. We are having the USL Super League president Amanda Vandervoort on the show to talk everything ahead of the inaugural weekend of the tournament. Plus, Sandra Herrera is going to join us for a couple different segments today so we can get her insight and everything that's going on. But first, I want to talk to you guys about everything that's happening in back to school, because kids are gearing up, they're getting ready to go back to school, and I remember trying to get my pens and my notebooks and things. And when you were gearing up to go back to school, what was your favorite thing to buy or to get ahead of the school year?
Okay, so a little thing you may not know about me, I was homeschooled growing up. I was homeschooled all the way up until college.
Much sense.
Everyone says that. Everyone says that. But that being said, I did still have a normal school year. I still did normal things. It was shoes. It was always sneakers. I remember when I first got into sneakers, my very, very first real sneakers were Adidas Response Trails when I was 12 or so, but it was always and forever sneakers, and then it was Sambas, but yeah.
So did you put the sneakers on to go from your living room to the second room over to do
it's
school?
a long way from my bedroom to the living room, so it's a long track. I actually did a lot of classes outside to around real people.
We could spend an entire show asking you questions about me.
This show is now the asking Aaron about being homeschooled show.
All right, Darian, what about for you?
I was gonna say shoes because I also grew an inch every week, so I love Converse. So I was always getting new Converse whenever I outgrew my shoes. But I'll switch it up and say I loved getting my hair done for the school year.
Oh, I like that.
Yes, I always got fresh braids or something whenever I started school. So I'd try out new colors, try out different types of braids. So that was
the
my
wildest
favorite
color
thing.
you did when you were a kid?
I think I did a deep purple.
Oh, can you bring that back for us? I would want to see that.
There's a photo somewhere deep down. I'm not showing you. I was
We're gonna contact
5'9",
your mom
80 pounds with hair that weighed just as much as I'd like. It wasn't a look. It wasn't a look. I tried.
Absolutely. What about you?
I love that. I wore a uniform all of my school.
I always wish I wore a uniform.
It was great because you never had to think about it. So we never went clothes shopping, but I loved getting new pens and new pencils for school.
You're such a Scorpio.
I know. But I would.
I knew it was going to be pens.
I love a good mechanical pencil that I could write. I took all my notes in pencil.
Were you a highlight? You highlighted everything in specific colors?
No, I wasn't that organized. I know, don't give me that look, Darian. I wasn't. I don't do that now. No highlighter at the desk today. Just a pen for me. Come on. I've loosened up a little.
So you usually do have a highlighter, but.
Let's jump into the latest news that has happened. Canadian international forward Chloe Lacasse has been released from Arsenal. This dropped just yesterday, Wednesday, and she is headed on a permanent transfer to NWSL side Utah Royals with a contract through 2027. It is the first time Lacasse is playing professionally in the States. She did go to college at the University of Iowa, playing in the Big Ten. But Aaron, with Lacasse back in the States playing at Utah, how is Lacasse going to bolster the Royals' attack?
Yeah, I think for them, anytime you have a player of her ilk who can kind of solve problems on her own, she's very good with the ball at her feet. She can kind of play on either wing. She can create chances out of nothing. She can get them out of a jam just on her own. And I think if you add a couple of those pieces alongside an Allie Sentinor, they're starting to build a little bit of an identity. They're adding a couple pieces that can help them. And a dynamic player that can change the game on her own absolutely helps in that regard.
Darian, she comes from Arsenal. She was only there for 1 year. Didn't start that much. She was behind Beth Mead and Caitlin Ford. How much time do you expect Lacasse to get at Utah?
I mean, that's a tough front two to try to compete with such decorated players. I expect her to get quite a bit of time. I do think this is a great signing by Utah just for the competition aspect that's going to bring to their very young team. And they haven't produced enough. You need more players in there, and she has really good service that can whip crosses into the box, that can combine well, that know how to break teams down in the run of play. I don't think we've really seen that from the Royals just yet. So I think she's going to bring a complete new elevated piece to them in that attacking line. And she can also play wingback. I think this will help Utah in getting forward, maintaining possession higher up the pitch. And it's nice to have a little bit more veteran leadership along with Amandine Henry.
Could we see a different formation with Utah because of this trade?
I kind of want to. I think they need something new. They need something. They need to shake up for the second half of the season.
She's the type of player, like you said, she's versatile enough to allow them to kind of to switch it up, to change the formation a bit. So I think this is a solid signing for them. It makes sense.
We'll see when Lacasse makes her debut at Utah in the NWSL. The latest news out of Chicago Red Stars is that there's an update to their September 21st match against San Diego. And for all of this update, we bring in the fourth member of our studio crew, Sandra Herrera, to talk about this. Sandra, break down everything that has happened. Can you go through the timeline of Chicago Red Stars, Riot Fest, and break it all down for us, please?
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind for real. Riot Fest, for folks who don't know, has kind of been like a staple among music festivals in Chicago. Got their start in 2005. And then in 2012, really became a full-blown long weekend fest. And in June, they announced kind of a reimagining of that festival, saying that, hey, we're going to have Riot Fest as Riot Land, and we're going to the burbs. We're going to the Village Bridgeview, where SeatGeek Stadium is currently located and where the Chicago Red Stars have their games. So from June, it presented some predicaments for Chicago Red Stars. The announcement was met with a lot of mixed reactions, honestly, especially from the women's soccer community, saying, hey, wait a second, there's a game being held that exact same Saturday, the weekend of Riot Fest typically held. So what's the deal here? So there was a lot of back and forth in terms of, is this game going to take place? It kind of kickstarted some things in motion about what could happen. Why didn't Riot Fest maybe ask some of these questions of the Village of Bridgeview? Why did the Village of Bridgeview go ahead and okay such a massive fest when they knew that there was already a prior date scheduled for SeatGeek Stadium? And the response was basically to sort of kind of wait and see approach. So now here we are 2 months later, and a lot of back and forth over the course of what was going to happen with this particular game. Kansas City Current getting involved at one point to offer their services as a Midwest neighbor. But now, and as officially as of August and yesterday, Riot Fest is moving back into the city to hold their weekend music festival, and Chicago Red Stars will essentially keep their original September 21st date against San Diego Wave FC.
Sandra, how does Chicago really try to prevent something like this from happening again? I mean, that's a wild oversight and honestly disrespectful in my opinion. It seems that the Red Stars are just looked at very secondhand, very movable, almost as an afterthought. What do you think is going to be put in place to make sure that this team is actually a priority and that these dates are honored?
Yeah, you aren't alone in that sentiment. That was really a lot of the larger part of the feelings in terms of the reaction to this when the news first dropped back in June. And maybe the threat of litigation possibly had something to do with that as well. I mean, the Red Stars were very vocal about the fact that they felt disrespected by the fact that this was occurring, and the Village of Bridgeview trying to get in front of it and saying gender surely has nothing to do with this. But we all know and talk constantly about kind of the double standard when it comes to women's pro sports versus men pro sports, especially here on Attacking Third. And I think in terms of moving forward, this is just another one of those examples that you can put into the file specifically for the Red Stars as they're now under new ownership, to things that they are going to take a look at over the course of their year here under new ownership and say, these are some things that we got to take care of. This is something that we cannot, make sure that this doesn't happen again, and maybe kind of keep that in a long-term vision of things moving forward.
Now, Sandra, maybe a tiny bit of a bright spot in this very dark mess. Can you tell us about the burgeoning partnership between Red Stars and Riot Fest?
Yeah, I think one of my reactions when the news kind of came out yesterday and we were writing it up for .com was that there's a winner here and there is a runner-up. There's like a Fair Play Award winner for Kansas City Current for offering, their services, and there's definitely a biggest loser in the Village of Bridgeview. So, as far as kind of looking ahead a little bit, it's wild to think that at one point, one of the cultures I think that comes into play of women's soccer is how collaborative things can kind of be, especially when we're narrowing that lens into NWSL. And the fact that Kansas City Current caught wind of what was happening for Chicago Red Stars and reached out, I think that's just a wild kind of tailspin to this overall story. I think there were multiple announcements over the course of this, leading into this week, about what was going to happen. Whether or not that announcement was going to be that Chicago was going to have this game and Kansas City, or whether Riot Fest was going to move out. All those things kind of kind of followed each other over the course of this week. And now there's a partnership between Riot Fest and the Red Stars to kind of have coexisting events at the festival weekend and also on November 3rd at SeatGeek Stadium, where the Red Stars are going to host an official Riot Fest night.
Sandra, do you think that, well, one, can we get tickets to that? And two, do you think that the Red Stars will ever actually move out of Bridgeview and go somewhere more permanent, more stable, where they are honored as a professional sports team in the U.S. and aren't so taken so flippantly, I guess?
Yeah, it's a lot to throw on the plate in terms of a year zero for new ownership. This is really the first official regular season where the leadership group led by Laura Ricketts finally have, a regular season to look at in front of them and see how to navigate the waters of that. And they haven't shied away from the fact that there are certain priorities on their list. And one of that is making sure that their players primarily have a very good playing experience and that their fans also have a very good sporting event experience. So they've been in the mix in the conversations, kind of bullied their way, invited themselves, as club president Karen Litzo has said to me, to some of these meetings where they maybe weren't given an invite initially when it comes to things like public funding and things like that. Another example of where women's sport is an afterthought, where there's all these conversations of public funding and yet women's sports, pro sports teams aren't really kind of acknowledged within those conversations. Now, that might not necessarily be an avenue that they go down, but they're making connections in terms of what are the next steps for this franchise moving forward. And the very long-term goal is to eventually get a facility for this team to play in that they can call their own.
Sandra, thank you so much. Really cool insight from you and all of your reporting on CBSSports.com. Appreciate it.
Have a good show, y'all.
We'll see you later in the show as well, Sandra. Don't go anywhere. We've got USL Super League President Amanda Vandervoort joining the show next. Welcome back to Attacking Third. We are pleased now to welcome in USL Super League President Amanda Vandervoort. This is ahead of the opening match day of the inaugural season of the Super League. Amanda, welcome in. This is a big week for you. How are your nerves right now?
You know what? I was on a flight back to Tampa last night, and I was just reflecting on what a journey it's been launching the USL Super League. My nerves are good to go. We're excited. We're ready. Our teams are ready to kick off, and we couldn't be more excited about the inaugural weekend coming up.
We're so excited for you. Amanda, can you take us through how this came about, the inception of it? Can you just take us through the process of how this started for you?
Yeah, well, I've been at the USL for 3 years, so I started really in earnest building the Super League in 2021. But it's been a vision of Alec Papadakis and the USL for over a decade here. So women's professional soccer, bringing the women's game to more communities across the United States is part of the ethos of the USL, and really being, community driven and being a league that really thrives on more opportunities in soccer. So the USL Super League, finally now in our inaugural season, bringing that to life is, for me, it's a dream come true.
It feels like a long but fulfilling process that you have been able to go on. When you think back to the first steps you took to create this inaugural league, what advice would you give yourself then that you know now?
That's an interesting question. I think be confident in what I know. I think for me personally, I've had a journey in soccer. I've worked in all different kind of fields of the game, whether it's the player union side, whether it's executive management. I used to do social media as my job, and I was a player and a coach, and kind of now bringing all that together to launch the USL Super League. It's like, be confident in the knowledge and experience that you've gathered to get to this point, and always do right by the players and the fans.
Now, Amanda, can you walk us through the decision to shoot for D1 status instead of remaining at D2? What was the overarching decision-making behind that?
Oh, yeah. We're confident in our standards, really, across the USL Super League, and delivering the best experience for, like I said, for the players and fans. And if you go back and you think about what's your core, like, drive. For us, we want to be a global leader in the women's game, and we have all the confidence that the USL Super League will deliver on that. And so for us, being at the Division I level was an easy decision that we took, both with the league office and our ownership groups who were committed to that standard.
Amanda, as a former player, I've never gone through a fall season that goes into the winter. How are you guys going to balance the fall to spring schedule and, in certain markets where the weather can be a really, really big factor in those months? What's the solution to, making sure the players and the fields are great for them?
Yeah, I mean, it's really not that much different. We'll play in November and half of December. Our fall schedule ends December 14th. So what we've done is heavied up on the southern markets in those kind of colder seasons, colder months. And then when the weather's great up north in those summer months, get you, out of some of the hotter temperatures. So luckily at the USL, because we have an established infrastructure that also includes a lot of men's teams that we control the majority of our venue schedules, we're able to navigate that in most cases across the league. So for us, the decision to go on the international calendar was largely to be part of the global professionalization of the game and lead through our vision to be a leader in that space. And so, navigating a new soccer schedule for us felt like a challenge, but something that was easy to do given our infrastructure and something that we thought, again, that the players and fans deserved, that international calendar.
Now, Amanda, obviously you have a ton of experience in this realm, and you have seen the history of the multiple women's leagues in this country, some success and some not. How did that history shape the founding of the USL Super League?
Yeah, I mean, I would say first, we have great respect and admiration for all the leagues, all the people who've been involved in women's soccer before us, the players, the coaches, the administrators, the investors, the staff. I think we're lucky to be at this moment in women's sports that's on this incredible trajectory. And I think we owe a lot to the people who've come before us. So that's been a big piece of it. And we've taken learnings along the way from all of those leagues. And I think that's what's going to make us the strongest and make us better, is taking all of those insights and all of those learnings and using them to build a league for the future. We're building a generational league here that we expect, to survive the players' kids that are the players we have now, their kids into the future. And that's how we're thinking about this project, is about a long-term, sustainable women's professional soccer league at the highest standard. And we're incredibly proud to be delivering that in our inaugural season.
Amanda, there is also a USLW league that there's been talks about how that can hopefully feed some players into the Super League. So can you walk us through the relationship between all the different levels of USL leagues?
Yeah, well, we're really good at running leagues. The USL operates both men's and women's professional soccer leagues across 43 men's professional teams and now 8 women's professional teams, and a series of amateur leagues and teams below that. But let me just focus on the women. The Super League is our Division I professional league. Below that, we have the W League. We have 80 teams in the W League. And below that, we have an academy system. Now, how it all links together is really important. Today, we have about 30% of the players in the Super League have experience in the USLW League. So that's a demonstration. I mean, that today is already proof in the pudding that the W League has impacted the future of professional soccer in this country. And then our academy players, actually under 18 academy players, up to 5 of them, can feature on your Super League team or be in those training environments and really have the opportunity to experience professional soccer, as they're developing and growing and deciding what their future career path is. So from the academy through the W League up to the Super League, it's all interconnected and really focused on, what elite players need at different steps of their player development.
Amanda, I love that. It gives a lot of opportunity to the players, a lot of ability to grow within the league. We need more of that. Kudos to you. I want to know, after all of this, the inception of the league, it's now starting this weekend. What is success to you at the end of year 1? What does that look like to you?
Yeah, I think it's really important. I'll go back to kind of what I said at the beginning, players and fans. So we want to build we want immediate success and long-term sustainability. But at the end of year one, if our players have had a great experience and the fans have had a great experience, they're going to come back and they're going to give us the feedback and knowledge to make this league even better. So it's about experience, really, for us, and bringing more professional women's soccer to more opportunities. I mean, the fans today, the excitement here in Tampa for the game on Sunday is off the charts. Our league office is in Tampa. So, you hear people out on the streets talking about how excited they are. And to me, that energy, that excitement for people who've never had women's professional sports in this city and now being able to deliver that, we need to make sure the experience is excellent. And that's year one.
I don't want to jump too far ahead of us because I'm excited for the opening weekend and all of what year one is going to bring for you. But what does your 5-year plan look like for this league?
Yeah, well, we talk a lot and work a lot on our expansion strategy and how we're going to build the Super League into the future. We do have a lot. There's so much interest in professional women's sports and professional women's soccer right now. And the conversations that we're having across the country have been incredible. So we're looking forward to developing that expansion strategy along with our ownership groups to make sure that we get, we need to get some West Coast expansion, fill in the footprint, and navigate the growth of this league again to long-term sustainability. So we talk a lot about that for our 5-10-year vision and plan, and then continuing to grow the fan base. So, year one is about creating a great experience. So next year, people want to bring their friends. And by year 5, there's a line out the door waiting for tickets.
All right, now, Amanda, obviously we have a new women's national team coach. Emma Hayes just led the national team to the Olympic gold. Do you have a personal relationship with her? Tell us about your experience with Emma Hayes, the person.
You know what? I love that you asked me this question. I met Emma probably in 2002 when she was the head coach of the Long Island Lady Riders in the USLW League. She won Coach of the Year. What a throwback, right? She was the Coach of the Year that year, as the youngest head coach in the USLW League. And we were both coaching in New York, Region 1 ODP, and we were doing some recruiting trips together. And I just knew at that moment what a special human being she was. I could see the connection that she had with her players. She's taught me so much about how to read the game, how to understand, all the elements that go into the soccer, like coaching a game, but also managing a game and managing people. So she's a remarkable person. I've been lucky to have a front row, to her growth through the years, and we've supported each other in our careers. So to see her and the U.S. women's national team win a gold medal last weekend was like one of the most exhilarating and proud moments I could ever imagine.
Oh, that's so cool to hear about your relationship. And now she gets to watch you starting at a new league and take it off the ground. One more question for you, Amanda, before we let you go. Ahead of this inaugural weekend, fans are going to hear about a lot of these teams, show up to games, see things on social media. What do you want USL Super League fans to know ahead of opening match day?
Oh, I want them to know that that experience matters. I mean, I really will continue to, we want their feedback. We want to know, what the environment's like in the stadiums, because we want them to come back. We want them to help shape the experience with us. I think we're all in this game together growing it. I mean, you guys too, right? And everyone watching this, we're all part of this game together and making sure that everyone's voices are heard, whether that's singing your heart out in the stadium or, giving us feedback along the way to make it a better experience for everyone. So for us, we're all growing this game together. I'm thankful and grateful for everyone who's joining this journey with us. Everyone who shows up at a game, thank you. And let's do this thing together.
Amanda, thank you so much for joining us, and good luck, especially this weekend.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me.
Don't go anywhere. We've got Sandra Herrera joining us next, and we are diving into the opening weekend of the USL Super League. Welcome back to Attacking Third. The inaugural season starts on Saturday of the USL Super League. Match day 1 features Carolina Ascent against DC Power and Spokane Zephyr against Fort Lauderdale United. Then Sunday, just one match, Tampa Bay Sun against Dallas Trinity FC. For more on all of the USL Super League, we welcome in Sandra Herrera to join us ahead of this inaugural season. 8 teams in the Super League, a season that goes from fall to spring, August to December, and there's 28 matches, 14 in the fall, 14 in the spring for these sides. 4 teams make the playoffs at the end of it, a semifinal, and then a final match. And Sandra, when you think about the start of the Super League and how everything is coming together, how does it compare to when the NWSL started their season?
I gotta be real. It's giving like familiarity, like it's giving deja vu. Like there's definitely like a layer of excitement and positivity that this league is getting kicked off with, cautious optimism, honestly, which is I think some trends that existed when NWSL was making their introduction. So you want success for women's pro soccer in this country, but comparing the time when NWSL got launched in 2013, there was definitely a moment of like, well, it's back and will it last? And now I think there's cautious optimism in the sense where it's like there's a ton of examples to go off of at this point, and surely this will get off and running and continue to grow and have success.
What are your expectations for this league, Sandra, just to be frank?
Look, this is American women's domestic soccer. My expectations are that this league fought for a D1 status, so they better come out and be competitive. I want to see really good games against these 8 teams. I think when we're talking about some of the expectations that were placed upon them that comes with that D1 sanction, you're like, okay, you've earned it. They gave it to you, so now you got to maybe kind of show up and show out a little bit. So I'm eager to see the competitive nature between all of the teams. I'm also eager to see how the calendar is going to work. So the fact that this is going to be a fall to summer league, I know there's a lot of excitement around that as well. Hasn't really been done in women's pro soccer typically. So how is that going to look in particular?
Sandra, we spoke with Amanda Vandervoort, the president of the USL Super League, about that specifically, playing in the winter. And she was like, we wanted to be on the world football schedule and calendar. And she's not at all concerned about the weather or anything like that. We'll see how it all unfolds this year, but her confidence makes me feel pretty confident in it all. But Darian, for you, when you think about the expectations of the USL Super League, what are they for this first season especially?
To be competitive, in my opinion, I'm really interested to see the quality of the game. I mean, you think back to leagues when they first start, it's not always pretty. It's not always beautiful football. I think we're going to see a lot of players and names that we've never seen before and really get to see their game, which is really exciting. I like that it creates a lot of opportunity, that there's fluctuation between, which league you're in. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see the infrastructure of the different teams. Some teams are really loud about all of the assets that they have and the opportunities for their players, and all of the cool things that they're doing to make it very professional. Other teams are really, really mum. You haven't heard much, you haven't seen much.
Does that concern you about it?
Yeah. I mean, you look at any women's league, there's a really big drop off, and I have a lot of faith. I'm excited because it's been a 3-year buildup. It was really cool to talk to Amanda Vandervoort, but it's women's soccer, playing in professional for 6.5 years like I did. There's a lot of growth between the different teams. So it's going to be really interesting, and I think we'll tell pretty fast who was kind of hit the ground running and really got infrastructure set and who didn't.
Aaron, when you think about the players that will be competing in this league, I mean, what kind of players can we expect to see across the Super League?
Yeah, I think it'll be a really, really interesting mix of players we have seen in NWSL, some international players, and then some younger players, especially Amanda Vandervoort talked about the path through the W League, about how many of these players that are in the NWSL now, that are in the USL Super League, have come through that W League path. So I think this will be an opportunity for a number of younger players who are kind of maybe ready to leave college or kind of figuring it out, whether or not they can make the leap to NWSL, whether or not they're just out of college and looking for a professional, whether they're thinking about moving to Europe. I think it's a really, really interesting kind of in-between landing spot for some players. Obviously, there's limited roster spots in the NWSL, and in Europe, it's tough to get into. So I think there's opportunities for players who maybe kind of fall in between those rankings.
Well, I think it's cool, too, that there is that opportunity because there's so many players, even that get drafted and we don't see get minutes, like an Ella Stevens, for example, we don't see get a lot of minutes until she's at the right place with the right team with a style that suits how she plays. This is going to give players that deserve to play professionally, that deserve, that moniker that they're a professional athlete and to be treated like one, the opportunity to actually do it and finally get the visibility to play. So I love this. I can't wait to see some players show out that we maybe haven't gotten the chance to see before.
Sandra, there are a lot of notable players that have signed with Super League teams that we've seen in the NWSL in college. But who are you watching in the Super League, especially in this opening weekend?
All of them? Can I just say all of them?
Yes.
Look, I'm with Aaron and I'm with Darian. I think the USL kind of closing that opportunity gap is massive, in this country. And I think when we see so many familiar names like this on the list who are getting ready to start in a new league, we're reminded of that. The fact that those opportunities are kind of few and far in between. And now maybe, just maybe, this will be an arena in which they can continue their professional careers and maybe get continued development and extended minutes. I'm looking at this list and there's a bunch of players on here who have kind of got NWSL lore behind them. Like, they are experienced players, but there's also players on that list that maybe found themselves drafted by an NWSL side and were unable to kind of crack through and break that final roster. And I think that is probably one of the more exciting things about USL. I think to Emma Hayes, when she got to New York and made her arrival, like, she referenced USL as kind of the part of that bigger picture plan and process that she has in mind in terms of revamping development in this country in light of being the head coach of the senior women's national team program. There absolutely has to be these areas and arenas for players to continue those playing opportunities and development, and USL is absolutely going to play a factor in that.
All right, Darian, I saw you checking out that list. Who are you watching?
I gave it a little up and down. Actually, a player wasn't on the list, Sydney Martinez. I'm really looking forward to seeing her play in a professional league here in the U.S. We got to see her as we covered the W Gold Cup for an entire month. It was really fun to see her show out with Puerto Rico, and I think being able to maybe see the evolution of her game, her be tested by players that are really going to challenge her, and she can show out with her shot-stopping ability. And shout out Brooklyn. I live in Brooklyn, so that's who I'm really looking forward to seeing play.
Number one fan of Brooklyn FC right there. All right, Aaron, player to watch for you.
I mean, it kind of looks like an ex-Gotham FC roster here. You see Taylor Smith is here, Kellyanne Livingstone, Erica Timrack, Dami Richardson, Kristen Edmonds. So I'm really interested to see all these players in a new league, a fresh start. I like them as people, so I want to see them succeed. So this is really interesting for me to see all these in a kind of new situation.
Darian, there's a lot of mix of players. Oh, Sandra, you going to ask me for my player?
Well, of course, I want to know your player, but I also want to get your perspective because we had Amanda Vandervoort on the show back in the day when it was just me and you doing a podcast. Yeah. So, what are your vibes going into USL now, and who's your player to watch?
I think Amanda Vandervoort seems so confident and sure of herself and sure of this league. She has put everything of her life for the last 3 years, she told us, into building this league and having it come to fruition. I hope that this weekend she gets a moment to just sit there and take it all in, all of the hard work that she's done, because it's been a long time coming. And even when they go from a second division to a first division and taking that leap and understanding the risks that come with that, but hopefully to get the payoff. And a lot will be telling of what comes of this first year of the Super League and how it all unfolds. But I'm really excited for the players to get an opportunity to play and compete with clubs that are willing to commit to them, that want to show them what it's like to be a professional football team in the States. And this is an opportunity for so many players that were playing abroad to come home and play in the States. When I look at this list, I'm excited to watch Erica Timrack and Jordan Listro at Tampa Bay Sun and see what team Christina Uncle, who is part of the CBS Sports family, she has put together as the president of Tampa Bay Sun, and what they can prove in this league. It's very fun and exciting to watch. We'll see. The USL Super League inaugural season kicks off on Saturday, and there is so much that we get to chat about and watch this weekend, but don't go anywhere. We've got plenty more Attacking Third coming for you. The NWSL returns to CBS on August 24th with a doubleheader. At 2:30 p.m. Eastern, Gotham takes on Portland Thorns. And then at 4:30, it's another edition of the SoCal Derby as both San Diego Wave and Angel City look to make a second-half playoff push. Don't go anywhere. We've got plenty more Attacking Third coming up next. Welcome back to Attacking Third. This NWSL season, we have seen over 250 transfers in the NWSL. That doesn't include college draft or the expansion draft. 250.
That's crazy when you put it that way.
And that's not including like assistant managers or head managers or anything like that.
No
And
staff
that doesn't
movements,
include
just players.
Yes, and it doesn't include the college draft or the expansion draft. And there are two trade windows in the NWSL, one that starts in January through April, and then one in the summer through August. And we are just about to conclude the end of that August window, and it had us thinking, what are some of the best NWSL transfers of 2024? Aaron, I will let you go first on your best one.
That. Thank you. Obviously, I'm going to go with the Homer hat here. And I had a few to pick from. Tierna Davidson, I think, was an incredible signing for Gotham. Shout out to my wife. But for me, it's been Ann-Katrin Berger coming in. They had good goalkeepers, but she has been a step above. Her assurance, coming off her line, claiming crosses, a level of comfort and excellence with her feet, her shot stopping. So for me, it's been Ann-Katrin Berger. I obviously, Tim Wichelwinga and Barbara Banda were the top two choices. I'm not gonna ruin anybody else's choices, but they were taken. So I went with the next best option, which was Ann-Katrin Berger for me.
It's all about who gets your email in first of who you want to pick. That's how it comes.
Honestly, I knew it. Like you guys were going to take one of those.
I text her as quick as I can.
Dibs on this player. All right, Darian, who'd you call dibs on?
Well, Aaron dropped the ball.
Yeah. I had to drop the bomb first since you guys got to it first.
Yeah, I mean, it's no surprise. But Tim Wichelwinga, I mean, talk about effectiveness of getting a player to come in and score 12 goals, get 6 assists, and just keeps getting better and better. Needed no time to adapt to this league, to the speed of play, to the physicality. In fact, she's raised the level and has been the ultimate weapon for Kansas City up top, regardless of who she's playing around. I mean, Kansas City is also the perfect place for her, in my opinion, because that team is just so intricate in the way that they play, and they really play to her strengths, to Bia Zanarato's strengths, who's another great transfer. But to me, she's the ultimate cheat code in the NWSL.
Well, no, there's one better than that.
You want to fight?
Barbara Banda. Barbara Banda, hands down the best transfer. She came in March ahead of the season to Orlando Pride and under Seb Hines, and since then she has been an absolute force in the NWSL. 12 goals in just 12 matches, 5 assists. So she also sets her teammates up for success, but she has changed the game in the NWSL. Darian, how many conversations have we had on the show about how you defend, how you stop Barbara Banda?
Yeah, there's been no
countless.
There's been no one to do it.
There's no one to do it. She has absolutely changed the game. She's put herself on the map. She's put Orlando Pride on the map. 17 matches. They're looking to continue their unbeaten streak. Unbuttoned streak through the end of the regular season. Hands down the best one. Okay, that was a little easier. Now we level up. We're going to talk about the most underrated transfers of the 2024 season. I like this topic, Darian. Let's see who you picked.
Adrian Gonzalez. I went with the coach. Being a player in the league, I realized the shortage of great coaches, and this is what I think that was proven so strong. Before Jonathan Heraldez came in, he had 10 wins, 1 draw, 4 losses for the Spirit. 29 goals for, 18 against. I think not only does the record reflect how good he is, but look at the players that he has really inspired and gotten the best out of. You see Rodman, Ule Sarr, who I played with in France, who I knew was such a good player. Her first year in the NWSL was rough. She didn't put away chances that she had, didn't look like she was enjoying the game. He's developed Corey Bethune, Hal Hirschfeld, rookies, and allowed them the freedom to really develop into now Olympians, which is crazy to say. But I don't think this goes without him being such a good players first coach. And I hope that we see him get a head coaching job somewhere else.
It's a great show.
Maybe a Utah.
Yeah,
maybe.
There's a couple of vacancies in the NWSL.
That's a fantastic show.
Yeah.
All right, Aaron, underrated transfer for you.
It's going to be Ella Stevens for me.
Good one.
She came in, this was a Gotham team that were struggling to score goals. She moved into that striker spot and it's been fantastic. Scoring goals, she's got 5 goals, 3 assists, but just a complete player. The joy that she brings on the pitch, the dribbling ability, the runs in behind, connecting the play. She's been an all-around fantastic striker. She scored more goals than she ever has in the league. She looks like she's fully enjoying her football, and she's got the swag, the fun, the exactly what we want to see in a Gotham team. An efficient player who has fun and excites. So she's
What's
mine.
cool about her too is she's not a fast forward, which I think Gotham really has. NWSL is full of. She's a very intricate forward. Like I think even one show we were saying, oh, she could play the 10.
100%.
She's very saucy, very confident.
She's athletic enough to run in behind.
Yeah, but she plays really to her strengths, which is on the ball, combination play. She's patient. I think she's a stellar pick for Gotham.
So that's who you wanted to pick, but he
It was who I picked, and I ended up just letting Aaron have it, and then I kind of took your pick and then pivoted to Adrian.
We're just all taking each other's picks, basically. It's a hive mind here. We're just like, whoever gets there first.
We work together. My pick for underrated transfer of this season is Ji So-young, who is playing at Seattle Reign. Ji has done a tremendous job slotting into a team that has truly struggled this year. They are 13th in the standings, Seattle, but Ji has been the brightest spot of this group. She's played in all 16 matches. She started 14 of them. And although her stats in terms of goal scoring aren't that high, 1 goal, 3 assists, it's so much of what Ji does off the ball. She pops into the pocket, she controls possession for the Seattle side, she can find forwards and play slip passes. Her final ball is really key, and once Seattle gets some of the more pieces around her to be a little bit more consistent, she's going to be such a stalwart in the midfield for Laura Harvey, because she just does so much work on the ball that goes unnoticed. Defensively, she sits well in pockets, and it has been very fun to watch Ji this year at Seattle.
It's a great pick.
Okay, so we did best, we did underrated. Now we do worst transfer, Aaron.
I hate doing this. I don't like to be negative like this, but I have to pick Rachel Kundananji. She was the world record transfer, $725,000, I think. She's only scored 2 goals and 1 assist, and Bay are sitting in 8th. And when you splash that type of money, especially looking at her Zambian teammate, Barbara Banda, who has been absolutely unreal, she has to be the worst signing for me, just because of she hasn't been bad. She's been decent, but for that amount of money, that's not enough.
And comparable to the money that they signed, right? That's really what it comes down to.
When you spend that much money, you have to get you have to get a lot of production.
To some extent. Yeah, I get that. All right, Darian, what about you? Worst one?
I went with another coach, firing Casey Stoney. I wish we still knew the full details about it, but to me, leading your team to 2 trophies in your inaugural season, you came in, flipped this team around, gave it massive success into the NWSL, and then to be let go because you're having a rough season. I don't know if there's more to that, but to me, she is a very good coach. We've had her on A3. I think she's incredibly effective. She's always talked about players first, players' welfare, their rights. The proper payment to players. I mean, clearly, I love a coach that's players first, as I keep dropping that. But to me, that was such a big loss. I think she is really set the tone for the NWSL, and I'm sad to see her go. And I hope maybe that's another coach. Maybe we'll see back again. Utah. There's coaches open for to hire.
And that one was so weird because San Diego had just offered her an extension. So it's very confusing how that all unfolded.
And I mean, there's such ebbs and flows into seasons and how teams adapt. I think you have to give a coach proper time to adapt. I mean, week to week, there's so many things that go on. They dealt with injuries.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. She's a good coach, in my opinion. I don't know why she was fired.
I'm sticking in the San Diego region. My worst transfer is forward Maria Sanchez. And all of the chaos that she has been through as an individual player throughout this year, because for Houston in December, she signed a $1.5 million 3-year contract to stay with the Dash. And then she trades to San Diego in April, and she didn't
But with like 3 days left on the deadline, right?
Yeah. Yes, it was very quick. She was saying she wanted out, looking for an opportunity. She goes to San Diego. She averages about 25 minutes her first couple of games, and then she starts making starts. But her impact at San Diego, it hasn't been that influential. And it's just been a bit confusing what's happening with Maria Sanchez. So that's my worst one.
I would also add to that fact that I don't think it suited San Diego. I think it also added to the issues with their chemistry in their front line, but yeah.
Okay, so these were all realistic ones and things that actually happened. Now we get to have fun with it. What is your dream transfer, Aaron, to see in the NWSL?
I went to Barcelona for this one. Salma Parejuelo. I think she is an incredible player, incredible future, incredible current player. I would love her at Gotham.
Homer!
Yeah. Every single pick
you're really
is gonna
stuck on
be
the
a
Gotham
homer.
train.
I like it.
Shout out Yayo. We love you. You're doing great work.
What about you, Dee?
I went with Carolyn Graham-Hansen to Kansas
Also plundering
City.
Barcelona.
Yes. I also, what's the best team in the world? Barcelona.
Love that.
Over to Kansas City. Because why
That's
not just have fun and score more goals and get the world's best 1v1 artist on the team that scores, 3+ goals every single match?
That's terrifying.
I was purely thinking entertainment, goal scoring, and I went with the WSL Golden Boot, Bunny Shaw, coming to Orlando Pride. How fun would that be?
Banda Shaw,
Banda
Marta,
Shaw?
That
Adriana.
seems illegal.
Like, that's
Oh my gosh, it would be practically illegal. We gotta look at the international roster spots there. I did not look into if that was actually plausible, but that's what I would love to see.
It's a good shout. These are fun dream teams.
These are really fun. Today's episode was really fun too, guys. Thanks for joining us and rocking our kits today. We did it on a Thursday. Why not?
Why not?
Why not? We have some fun with it. Thank you, everyone, so much for joining us for this special episode of Attacking Third. Have a wonderful weekend. We will be back in studio on Monday to recap everything that happened over the weekend, talk about the games that have happened, and gear up for the NWSL returning. Have a great weekend.